We've all been there, right? You see something you want online, you click a button, and just like that, a few days later, it shows up at your door. It feels so simple, so instant. But what's really going on, legally speaking, in that tiny fraction of a second when you hit buy? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a super old law that, believe it or not, runs your entire online shopping life. So let's just dive right in with a question that might sound kind of weird. When you click that big, shiny Buy Now button, have you actually bought anything? The answer, and this might blow your mind, is almost always no. Nope. You haven't legally bought a single thing yet. Okay, so here's the big misunderstanding we all have. We think hitting buy is like a digital handshake, right? A done deal, a binding contract is formed. But in the eyes of the law, that click isn't the finish line. It's the starting gun. You aren't accepting an offer, you are making one. And the seller can still turn around and say, "No, no thanks." This all comes down to a really important legal idea. And that idea is called an invitation to treat. I know, it sounds a little stuffy and technical, but it's the invisible rulebook for pretty much all shopping, whether you're at your local grocery store or on the biggest website in the world. So let's break down what it actually means. So, what on earth is an invitation to treat? Put really simply, it's just the seller putting something out there and saying, "Hey, I've got this for sale. Anyone want to make me an offer?" That product page you're looking at, that sweater on a mannequin with a price tag, even a menu at a restaurant, none of those are binding offers. They're just invitations. This whole thing just completely flips the script on how we think a sale works. So step 1, the store puts the stuff out. That's the invitation. Step 2, you, the customer, walk up to the checkout, real or digital, and say, "I'd like to buy this for that price." That's your offer. And then finally, step 3, the seller takes your money, or in the online world, sends you that your order has shipped email. That is the acceptance. Only then do you have a real contract. But where did this whole idea even come from? Well, it was actually nailed down in a huge court case that involved a crazy new technology at the time, the self-service shop. And to get it, we've got to travel back in time a bit. We're going all the way back to 1953, to a Boots Cash Chemists over in the UK. Now, at the time, shopping was changing big time, and Boots was leading the charge. See, Boots had rolled out this radical new self-service system. Customers could just wander the aisles, pick things off the shelves themselves, and then bring them to a counter to pay. The problem? There was an old law, the Pharmacy and Poisons Act, which said certain medicines, legally called poisons, had to be sold under the watchful eye of a pharmacist. This new way of shopping suddenly created a massive legal headache. So the entire case boiled down to this one critical question. When did the sale legally happen? Was it the moment a customer picked a regulated medicine off the shelf? If so, Boots was breaking the law because there was no pharmacist standing over their shoulder in the aisle. Or did the sale happen at the cash register, where a pharmacist was present? And the court's decision? It was a total game changer for contract law. They ruled that just putting stuff on a shelf for people to look at is not a final offer. It's just an invitation to treat. This ruling meant Boots was in the clear, and it basically legalized the whole self-service model that we totally take for granted today. And a quote from the judgment itself really spells it out. It says that just because a customer picks something up, that's not them accepting an offer. It's the customer making an offer to buy. The contract only gets sealed when the shopkeeper, or in this case the pharmacist at the register, accepts their money. That moment was the supervised sale, and Boots was off the hook. Okay, so fast forward from that 1950s pharmacy, because that ruling, it directly controls every single click you make online today. The website is just the modern-day shelf. The product page is the display, and you clicking buy is you walking up to the till. Just think about the buttons you see all the time. Add to cart is the perfect digital version of the old Boots model. It's like dropping something in your shopping basket so you can keep looking around. The Buy Now button, that's just an express lane to the checkout. It takes you straight to the point where you make your offer, which is awesome for those impulse buys. But legally, they both end up in the exact same spot, with you making an offer. And you know, this whole legal thing is a massive deal for online stores. It's literally how they protect themselves. If you ever read the terms and conditions, I know who does that, they'll spell out that the contract is only official when they ship the item, not when you place the order. This gives them a legal way out if they mess up, like accidentally listing a $1,000 TV for $10, or if they suddenly run out of stock. They can just reject your offer. Okay, but here's where this simple, old system starts to get a lot more complicated in our modern world. It's when we enter the giant online marketplaces. And that's where we run into a mystery. Who are we actually buying from? I mean, Think about it. If a website is just the digital version of a store shelf, what happens when that shelf is owned by a huge platform, but all the products on it belong to thousands of different people? If a faulty product hurts someone, who's on the hook? The random third-party seller you've never even heard of, or the massive platform that handled the entire transaction? And this is where we see the law really starting to split. In the European Union, the traditional view has been that platforms are just intermediaries, kind of like a landlord renting out space in a mall. They're not liable. But in the US, we're seeing a really interesting trend where more and more courts are saying, nope, platforms like Amazon are a key part of the chain of distribution and they can be held liable as a seller. But, the law is playing catch-up like it always does with technology. Over in the EU, new regulations like the revised Product Liability Directive and the Digital Services Act are starting to put more responsibility on these big platforms to make sure the stuff sold on their sites is safe. The ground is definitely shifting. And really, this brings us to the big final question we have to ask ourselves. These online marketplaces aren't just passive shelves anymore, are they? They control our payments, the shipping, the advertising. They carry the entire experience. So as they take more and more control over how we shop, shouldn't they also have to take on more responsibility for our safety? That's the question the law is wrestling with right now, and the answer is going to shape the future of how we all shop online.